The tool that cut the pyramids still has no explanation, and they stopped looking. Underground tunnel, Saqqara, Egypt. 24 granite boxes, each one cut from a single block, each one weighing up to 100 tons. And here's the thing that nobody in the official story wants to explain. The interior surfaces of those boxes are flat to 2/10,000ths of an inch. That is not a rough measurement. That is a precision tolerance that modern industrial engineers, with calibrated gauges, confirm they cannot exceed using the best equipment available today. Those surfaces were cut over 3,000 years ago, with copper chisels. That is what they want you to believe. The problem is, physics does not care what anyone wants you to believe, and physics says that is impossible. This is the tool that cut the pyramids. This is the evidence that has been sitting in the stone for over 140 years. And this is the story of why the one application that could confirm it, a laser scan, not even touching the stone, has been sitting in a government filing system in Cairo marked pending since 2021. Let us start with granite itself, because I think the official story depends on most people never actually understanding what granite is. Granite sits at hardness 8 on the Mohs scale. That is the scale geologists use to rank how resistant a material is to being scratched. Diamond is a 10. Corundum. The industrial abrasive inside modern grinding wheels is a 9. Copper sits at 3. That is the chisel they hand you in the textbook. A copper chisel. Hardness 3. Pressed against a material at hardness 8. When you drag copper across granite, you do not cut granite. Granite cuts the copper. You scratch the surface mildly. You wear down your tool, you accomplish essentially nothing at scale. And yet, the official story of ancient Egyptian construction, the one taught in every school on Earth for over a century, requires copper and bronze tools to have produced the most precisely cut stone surfaces in the archaeological record. For limestone, that story is fine. Limestone is soft. Limestone forgives bad tools. The Diary of Merer, the oldest papyrus ever found in Egypt, discovered at Wadi el-Jarf in 2013, is basically a shipping log for limestone blocks going to Giza. Delivery schedules, crew rosters, quantities, it is mundane and it is convincing. For limestone, the official model holds, but nobody has ever found the granite version of that document. For the most precisely cut stone in the ancient world, there is no labor log, no quarry record, no tool inventory, no delivery schedule, a civilization that documented ration lists and crew rotations with the thoroughness of a modern logistics company left no paper trail at all for the granite work. That is not a gap in the record. That is a gap where a record should be and is not. In the 1880s, a man named William Matthew Flinders Petrie surveyed the Giza Plateau. He was not a fringe theorist. He is the founding figure of modern scientific Egyptology. He invented the stratigraphic methods the field still uses today. He is about as establishment as it gets. Petrie measured the drill holes and drill core remnants left behind in the granite at Giza and Aswan, and he published his findings in 1883 in a volume called The Pyramids and Temples of Giza. What he found was this. The ancient drill holes show a spiral groove advancing through solid granite at a rate of approximately 1/10 of an inch per rotation of the drill. Sit with that number, 1/10 of an inch per rotation, through granite, through a material that copper cannot scratch. Modern diamond-tipped industrial drills, powered by electricity using the hardest artificial abrasive materials available, advance through granite at approximately 1/100 of an inch per rotation. The ancient drill was advancing 10 times faster than a modern diamond drill through the same material. Petrie published that number in 1883. The field absorbed it, labeled it anomalous, and moved on without ever answering the question it raises. What was powering that drill? Petrie himself addressed the pressure required. Based on the groove characteristics and the properties of the corundum abrasive found in the drill holes, he estimated the downward force on the drill during cutting was on the order of 1 to 2 tons. Continuous, sustained throughout the entire cut. A human being can sustain roughly 150 to 200 pounds of downward force. 1 ton is 2,000 pounds. You would need 10 to 15 people standing on the drill simultaneously, somehow, while it rotated, just to approach that pressure. That is not a mechanism. That is a number that no human-powered system can produce. Now, here is where the evidence stops being a number and becomes a word. In the Wadi Hammamat, a dry riverbed cutting through the eastern desert between the Nile and the Red Sea coast, Egyptian quarry workers left inscriptions on the rock walls over thousands of years. This was a working quarry, not a temple. Nobody was performing ceremonies at Wadi Hammamat. They were cutting stone and keeping records about cutting stone. The inscriptions read like site logs, quantities, dates, personnel, methods. This is the granite version of the Merer diary, the record that supposedly does not exist. Among those inscriptions, documented by Egyptologist George Goyon in 1957 and later cross-referenced by engineers who were not primarily interested in the religious symbolism, is a panel describing a cutting operation, not limestone, a hard stone operation. The scribes used a specific hieroglyphic determinative, a marker attached to every noun in the text that Egyptian technical writing reserves for material requiring special mechanical treatment: heavy, difficult, resistant material. The hard stone determinative. Every noun. This is not limestone work. The panel breaks into 3 components, and you need to read it the way an engineer reads a maintenance manual, not a ceremonial text, a procedure document. The first component describes the tool, a rotating instrument, the same root that appears in Egyptian drill texts, combined with a scale marker ruling out any handheld device. The tool is large. It requires 2 operators. It is pressed against the stone under controlled downward pressure. The word for the pressing action is the same word Egyptian engineers used for the controlled lowering of an obelisk onto its base. Not hammered, controlled, deliberate, sustained force. The second component describes the cutting material, a paste. The Egyptian word is shefet, mixed on site. The inscription specifies that it is brought in, not local, and that it is harder than the stone being cut. Harder than granite. The materials harder than granite available to the ancient Egyptians were quartz, corundum, and diamond. That is the complete list. Modern analysis of drill hole remnants at Aswan has confirmed the presence of crushed corundum at the cutting interface. The inscription names a paste harder than the stone. The stone has corundum in the holes. Those are the same thing. The third component describes the power source. And this is where the inscription produces the detail that the entire field has never adequately explained. The word used to describe what drives the rotation of the tool is not a word for human labor, not a word for animal power, not a word for water flow, counterweights, or any mechanical system that Egyptian engineering texts describe anywhere else in the record. It is a term that translates approximately as the directed force of heaven's turning, the sustained rotation commanded from above. One word, one inscription, no parallel in 4,000 years of Egyptian writing. Administrative language does not produce one-off technical terms by accident. A term appears once because it names something that was present when the document was written and was gone by the time the next generation of scribes was trained. Not superseded. Christopher Dunn, a precision manufacturing engineer who spent his career in aerospace, examined the same drill core remnants in the 1980s. His analysis confirmed Petrie's advance rate, and then went further. The spiral pattern in the groove is consistent. It does not wander. It does not vary in pitch the way a manually operated drill varies when the operator shifts pressure. It maintains a uniform helical path through the stone, the way a machine-controlled cutting process maintains uniform parameters. Dunn also identified something specific about the surface characteristics. The cut boundaries in the ancient granite work show no subsurface fracturing below the cut line. The crystalline structure of the stone beneath the cut is intact. The boundary itself is clean rather than ragged. That combination of signatures, uniform helical groove, zero subsurface fracturing, clean boundary, is consistent with one cutting process in modern manufacturing. Ultrasonic machining, the application of high-frequency vibration above 20,000 cycles per second to a cutting interface to achieve material separation without conventional mechanical force. The Serapeum boxes show no subsurface fracturing. The Aswan drill cores show no subsurface fracturing. The cut boundaries are clean. All 4 physical signatures of ultrasonic machining are present. All 4 signatures of conventional mechanical cutting are absent. Generating ultrasonic frequency at a scale sufficient to cut granite requires a sustained, controlled, high-energy power source. In modern practice, that means electricity and a frequency generator. No ancient civilization anywhere on Earth has left any artifact, mechanism, or text describing an equivalent power source. Not Egypt, not Mesopotamia, not the Indus Valley, not China. Nowhere. The inventory of ancient power sources is complete, and none of them get close to 20,000 cycles per second. The output is proven. The input has no ancient equivalent on the planet. That is the central unsolved problem of ancient Egyptian engineering. Here is the detail that the official story cannot accommodate. The oldest granite cuts in Egypt are the most precise. Not the most recent. The oldest, the Valley Temple at Giza, dating to the 4th dynasty around 2500 BCE, shows granite surface work that exceeds in precision anything produced in later dynasties. The Serapeum boxes, the oldest predating the New Kingdom by centuries, show interior tolerances that later Egyptian granite work does not approach. The Aswan drill cores from the earliest quarry periods show advance rates and groove consistency that later period drill holes do not match. Technology is supposed to improve over time. A civilization starts crude and develops toward precision. That is the trajectory of every technological tradition we know. Egypt runs backward. The finest work is at the beginning. The later work is coarser, more irregular, more consistent with ordinary mechanical tools. And then, at some point in the pre-dynastic period, the period whose technological record is the least documented and most contested, the finest work stops. Not gradually. It stops. The clearest illustration is the unfinished obelisk at Aswan, over 1,000 tons of granite, still attached to the bedrock where it was abandoned. The same zero fracture, clean shear cut signatures across its entire length. The cuts continue past the crack that mainstream archaeology blames for the abandonment. The machine kept cutting after the crack formed, and then it stopped. Not because cutting was no longer possible, because the machine stopped. The cuts at the point of abandonment are as precise as the cuts at the very beginning of the work. No sign of a tool wearing down, no deteriorating groove consistency, no widening of the cut boundary. Full precision right to the moment of stopping. And then silence. In 2005, Christopher Dunn applied to conduct precision surface measurement of the Serapeum box interiors using calibrated industrial gauges. The application was denied by the Supreme Council of Antiquities in 6 weeks. The stated reason was risk of surface damage. A calibrated gauge pressed gently against a 100-ton granite box does not damage that box. The real risk was the number the gauge would return. A surface flatness tolerance that no known ancient tool can produce, confirmed to modern measurement standards on the public record. That number has never been officially recorded. In 2021, a team from a French engineering institute applied for non-contact laser scanning of a single unoccupied Serapeum box. No touching, no excavation, a laser. That application is listed as under review. Not denied, not approved. Pending. Indefinitely. That is its own kind of answer. The Serapeum boxes are still in the tunnel at Saqqara. The interior surfaces are still flat to 2/10,000ths of an inch. The Corundum is still in the drill holes at Aswan. The advance rate Petrie measured in 1883 is still 1/10 of an inch per rotation. The modern diamond drill is still achieving 100. The Wadi Hammamat inscription is still on the wall of a dry riverbed in the eastern desert, describing a rotating tool, an abrasive paste harder than granite, and a power source named with a word that appears once in the entire Egyptian record and never again. And the laser that would settle this, that would confirm or deny the ultrasonic signature beyond any remaining doubt, is still sitting in a pending application in a government filing system in Cairo. Over 140 years since Petrie published that number. The field has had the advance rate, the Corundum, the zero fracture signature, a number that no copper chisel and no human-powered drill can produce. And the official answer is still copper chisels and organized labor, not because the evidence supports it, because the alternative requires admitting that the oldest cuts are the finest cuts, that the technology ran backward, that something was operating at the beginning of the Egyptian record that was not operating at the end of it. And that one word in the eastern desert, a word that 4,000 years of Egyptian writing never needed again, names what that something was. The stone has been holding that number for 4,000 years. It is not going anywhere.